Mini Friday.
There he is.
Mini Friday here. Hey, this is our last show for the week. We need it. I need it. Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely TV. What the fuck is my coffee? Kids, day before Independence Day, so we're taking the Independence Day weekend off. All damn weekend off. And yeah, because we can, because we have the freedom to before they send us to communist slave labor camps. I don't really care. Burn Pit Podcast boys are joining me today. It is Wednesday. I have no damn idea what we're going to be discussing. Probably going to be discussing how great this nation used to be, what it took to get to this place, and then how we just let it all go.
I can't hear him anymore.
Can't hear me anymore? Penis.
No, we're good.
Good now.
Balls.
We're good.
Right, yeah. There's some testicles going all over the place.
Peter, can you turn that up a little bit? Just a little.
Yeah. All right, Spreely TV, all the good stuff. Guys, when is the Burn Pit Podcast on? What days of the week is that on?
It's Monday, 4 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time. Every Monday, start your week off right with some good old right-wing extremists.
White power.
Little Freudian slip, huh?
No slip.
All right, kids, we got 30 seconds doing a show. Make sure you share the show. Make sure you go to Spreely.com and check out all the things there, like the Burn Pit Podcast, Report and Opine, the Shannon Joyce Show, Evening Rants, the Dumb Show, all the good stuff that you should be supporting because of free speech. Over in the chat, it is good to see everybody. Amy, Bev, Sarah, April, Schoen, when you're in there, you're in there. Oh, God. Fucking Wednesday. All right, let's get this shit show over with and have a show.
Prepare yourself.
The opinions of the host and guests on this show are exclusively just that, opinions. That means that they shouldn't be the cause of your state of being offended. Why does everybody get so butthurt?
Okay, let's go. Ready, go!
Sit down, shut up, and pay attention.
Damn!
This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your host, Dominic Izzo, from porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
Good afternoon. This is the Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely TV. All things spoken freely are in this place. If you really take the words and put them together, speak freely, you got Spreely. If you don't know that by now, know what the fuck are you even listening for? I have no idea why. We only have 2 people listening to the show anyways, so it is what it is. It is Wednesday, July 3rd. Tomorrow, Independence Day. Used to be, God, it used to be a fucking great day. Personally for us, it was my grandmother's birthday, so that meant, you'd go over and it would be all the cousins and aunts and uncles, and then the fireworks late at night. My dad and my 2 uncles would blow them off like crazy. And then when I got older into school and I understood the importance of this country and this nation, I really was proud to be a part of something that had things like free speech and free expression. And hey, you want to go practice that religion? Awesome. I don't care. It's not going to, do anything to me, X, Y, and Z. Tomorrow, I know it's going to be nothing but fucking little shithead, pussy liberals, black, white, indifferent, just complaining about how this country was never great because of how oppressed they are. And it's just, I fucking can't stand these people. I can't punch them in the face. I can't do anything about it. And I don't care about Independence Day anymore. Hi guys, how are you? What's going on?
What's up, brother?
Yeah.
Nice to be here as always. We love Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Me and Matt were just talking about that before we went live here. We enjoy you. We said Dominic's always fun, always a good time. So today's going to be good.
It's a shit show. It just comes on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is an educational day for me because obviously we get to listen to Matt talk about shit, and I love that. I'm not kidding. It's educational. I kind of want, since we are an educational platform, that's the purpose of all shows, is to educate. And you do that by engaging your audience. You do that by entertaining. I want to know if you guys know how the American Revolution was really won in the first place. Do either one of you guys know?
That definitely does.
What do you mean exactly? Like how it was really won? What do you mean?
Oh, Matt, how do you not know this? Do you know?
I don't know. What context do you mean? Like Matt, how we shot British soldiers in the face?
Matt, was there any specific battle that you think won was like the turning point that won our independence from the British?
Battle, the Battle of Yorktown, was pretty decisive. But you had the you had, in my opinion, whenever they I brought this up on a Monday's episode.
Yeah, on Christmas, we crossed the Delaware.
We crossed the Delaware, and they hired German mercenaries, was called the Hessians, which were an elite, highly trained group of German mercenaries that the British had hired out, and they were able to cross the Delaware, breaking the ice as they were moving, freezing cold weather. They snuck up on them, basically slit their throats in the middle of the night, were able to kill a lot of them, captured a lot of them. And you had other instances in down south where you had these pockets of called like guerrilla warfare, which you had guys like Francis Marion, whose nickname was the Swamp Fox. They would hide in the woods. Bannister Tarleton was a commander of the cavalry of the British. They could not catch this guy. He would run through the swamps, South Carolina. They would sneak up on British forts.
Sounds like a Patriot.
And that's who they
based the
character off of. And they would just blow up, steal, kill people in the middle of the night, guerrilla warfare. These British had bright red uniforms. These guys were able to hide in the woods and the swamps. So there's multiple different factions of the Revolutionary War to where they were able to win. But all in all, it was a lot of luck was involved. There's a lot of luck involved as well. And we had the help of the French. We provisioned a French fleet. A lot of the signers of the Declaration of Independence laid down their own money and then were never reimbursed by their government later on to provision the French fleet to help us out as well.
Right. Do you know that I think it's important? We just got out of Pride Month, which was last month, and very few people talk about the importance of the drag queen militia from 1776. You gave some very historic information, but I don't.
This is where we're going.
Well, why wouldn't it be? It's fucking Wednesday. I don't know if either.
I like it.
I don't know if either one of you have ever been told about the Battle of Throbbing Hill. Did you guys never heard of that battle?
No.
Okay. Well,
that one in history class.
Well, this is what this shows. That's what this show is all about. Let's discuss I had to do some research on this because I wanted to be all inclusive and find out about our nation's history. All right. Let's see. The year 1776, amidst the turmoil of the American Revolution, a unique and flamboyant force emerged from the shadows. Already you can tell from this historic document, this is going to be a very good story. This was no ordinary militia. It was a band of drag queens, fiercely proud and fiercely independent, led by the indomitable Lady Liberty Lace. They call themselves the Queens of Freedom. The Queens of Freedom had honed their skill, not just for the art of performance, but in the art of war. Lady Liberty Lace, once a renowned performer in the bustling streets of Philadelphia, had gathered her sisters from across the colonies. Among them were Miss Patriot Powder, renowned in her expertise for explosives, and Duchess Dagger, a master of close combat. Word spread of the British Army's plans to advance through the picturesque Throbbing Hill, a strategic location vital for controlling the region. The Continental Army, spread within and struggling, could spare no troops. It was then that Lady Liberty Lace and her militia stepped forward, their eyes gleaming with determination and sequins all over their dresses. As dawn broke on the fateful day, the Queens of Freedom stood atop Throbbing Hill, their silhouettes radiant against the rising sun. They wore their finest gown, each stitched with threads of resilience and defiance. The British soldiers, upon seeing the colorful spectacle, hesitated, their disciplined ranks faltering in the confusion and amusement. "Steady, men!" cried the British commander, trying to regain control. "They're just a rabble of performers." But as the British advanced, they soon realized they had underestimated their opponents. Lady Liberty signaled, and the Queen sprang into action. Miss Patriot Power unleashed a barrage of fireworks and makeshift grenades, dazzling and distorting the British lines. Duchess Dagger led a charge, her blade flashing with deadly precision. The battlefield was a riot, was of color and chaos. The Queens of Freedom danced and fought with unparalleled grace and ferocity. Their flamboyant attire, initially a source of mockery, became a symbol of their audacious and courage. They moved with agility as seasoned warriors. They choreographed, blending seamlessly into combat. Lady Liberty Lace, commanding from the heart of the fray, inspired her sisters with a few Continental soldiers who had joined them. "For freedom or fabulous!" she cried, her voice cutting through the clamor of battle. The British, unprepared for such an unconventional and spirited defense, began to falter. Their discipline and their ranks broke and panic set. The Queens of Freedom, relentlessly and unyielding, pressed their advantage. By midday, the mighty British force was in full retreat and their confidence shattered. News of the victory at Throbbing Hill spread like wildfire. The Queens of Freedom became legends overnight. Their bravery, flamboyance, capturing the hearts and imagination of the colonists, they proved freedom could be fought and won with not just muskets and bayonet, but with flair, unity, and courage to be one's true self. Lady Liberty and her militia continued to fight for the American independence, their ranks swelling. Within the inspired by their example, the Battle of Throbbing Hill became a turning point in the war and a testament of power and diversity and the strength found in the embrace of one's unique identity. And as so sunset on the newly independent United States, the Queens of Freedom stood proud, their victory a shining jewel in the crown of American history. They had not just fought for freedom, but had redefined it, showing that true independence meant liberty to live and love without fear, all in the name of the colors of the rainbow. It's a pretty damn good... Why aren't we taught that in history class?
Man, that's inspiring.
Fucking
that'll
dude.
Be the next... That'll be the next history book in a few years. You know,
not for nothing. All I did was type into fucking AI. Write me a short story on drag queens winning the American Revolution at something called the Battle of Throbbing Hill, and that's what it produced. I have to fucking wonder how soon until reality is replaced with shit by that, and people are gonna fucking believe it.
It already is replaced by shit like that. It has been for decades.
There's stories throughout history that are being rewritten all the time. But I'm with you, Dominic. The founding of this country, for me, is nothing short of a miracle. When you read about things, and Matt was right, it takes a lot of luck. Some would even say there's some divine providence involved with the founding of the country.
Yep.
And when you read the stories of heroics that our founders were able to accomplish, you wonder if that American spirit is dead today.
Oh, of course it is.
That American spirit that they had back then, the idea of what America is, the founding of it, what was just the spirit of America and what it was meant to be. There was no other idea like it in the history of mankind. Never has been since. The Constitution is unique. The rights that we have that were afforded to us by our founders, the ideas that they had to put pen to paper and risk their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor is something that we should, it's good to celebrate. In fact, Jesse Peters, I believe.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
He just announced that July should be White History Month.
And Jesse Lee Peterson is a black man.
This is true. This is true. But no, there was the people that were involved in the founding of the country, white, black, women, everybody was involved in the founding, and to take a day on July 4th and to think about it, and hopefully that American spirit lives on today. Me and Matt are trying to promote that American spirit today. Those men met in secret. And they meet in once a month, once every couple of weeks. And Matt and I have been talking about doing that, having some meetings, and anybody that wants to sit and talk about how we change the path of America and where we've been going, I think we're going to start doing that here. We're going to start promoting that.
That's correct. Yes, we are.
What's the reality? What did we want our independence for? Because what we were taught in school was freedom of religious issues. You want to be able to practice without, being forced into doing whatever, and unreasonable taxes. But what is that the reality of it? Or as we're learning in the last several years, that not everything is what it seems over these last several centuries. What was the reality of why we wanted our independence?
Well, there's a few things. Okay, there's multiple things, but some of the main ones were there was something called the Stamp Act, which they made you put the king's stamp on any product that you had in your house, and if you didn't have this stamped, British soldiers were able to just come and seize your property, mainly like rum and like any type of like valuable possessions. Because you're supposed to pay a stamp tax and get this stamp of approval on certain products. They would just come and seize them. Of course, a lot of people bitched that was actually on its way out, but a couple of the main things was the 3% increase in what was called the molasses tax, otherwise known as the sugar tax. And of course, the most famous one is the tea tax, which led to the Boston Tea Party. Mm-hmm. So again, a 3% increase, which by the way, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I like repeating these things. Even under the United States Constitution, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, taxing products or the transportation of products or the sales of products is actually constitutional. What the founders were upset is the what they believed was an unfair raise in the tax. They thought it was excessive, and that's why they did what they did, amongst other things as well. Again, there was multiple different factors, but the taxes were one of the main factors within that.
Right. And freedom, too, by the way. We're talking about a government of the people, by the people, and for the people here.
And remember, 60% plus of the population, maybe even 70%, they were fine with the way things were going. They did not want a violent revolution. They did not want to physically fight. They were not in favor. Only about 30%, roughly 30% of the population was in favor of doing this revolution.
I have to wonder how much similar parallels there were today as there are back then. So you've got a system that, well, it doesn't work perfectly, but it works. And I've said a million times, I don't like how shit is done, but let's just say for argument's sakes, we pull a 1776, right? You've got all these influencers out there with their t-shirts they're selling. We're going 1776. Shut the fuck up. You just sell t-shirts and go to rallies and get paid. That's it. But when somebody decides to pull the trigger, and we had, 13 colonies back then, and the population was way low, and it was a very small percentage of people who got involved with this fighting. Well, whatever those numbers would ratio over today in, when the dust clears, then who takes over? Who? Because I don't know how it was back then. I don't know if you had, somebody in the north or somebody in the northwest and somebody in the southwest. They all had their sphere of influence and their followers. And how much of a fucking mess was it at the end of it, where you had all the people trying to come together to decide which major blue check mark back then standards was going to lead the country. If you're putting me in that position back then as it is now, I can understand the apprehension of, you guys are so fucking unorganized. You're going to go up against England? That would be like today. You get a bunch of militias. You're going to go up against our military, our Secret Service, our backwards ass fucking police with all this shit. I can picture the chaos having to be some type of parallel back then as well, too, and how brave it had to have been to not only engage in that, but think about the convincing it must have taken to break away and start your own nation. That is what's extremely impressive.
Yeah, like you made an excellent point. You said, there was only 13 colonies. The population wasn't that big, so they had less to control, less to deal with. Again, they already had infrastructure set up. They just basically wanted to kick the British out. And they were able to do so. And that's why they met up with the Continental Congresses, and they set up the Articles of Confederation to set up that confederation with all the colonies to get them to go along with the Constitution that was written. There was multiple different drafts. If you ever go to the National Archives and look at the Constitution, there's there's a couple different copies there, and there's spots where there's items crossed out, and this is all in James Madison's handwriting. He's the one who actually physically penned it, but everybody, a lot of different people were involved in the creation of it. But they got all the colonies, or actually they got 9 out of the 13 colonies to sign on to it. I apologize. They got 11 out of the 13 colonies to sign on to it. Article 7 of the Constitution was stating we need at least 9 out of the 13 to make this work, to make it set in stone. And they got 11. And then 2 years later, 1791, they were able to get, I believe it was Rhode Island and Vermont as the last 2. So it became all 13 at that point. But again, they just went by the Constitution. Now, that was very limited. Okay, the Constitution is only 7 articles, 6 articles technically that you had to go by, and it was very easy. There weren't a million different laws. There wasn't all kinds of these state laws and all these different factions you had to deal with. It was a lot easier to maintain back then. But again, in 1812, the British tried to come back and take their land back. They tried to come back and take us out again, but we had to fight back again. We were a little bit stronger then, and we were able to defeat them a second time. But it wasn't easy. But to your point, what you're saying now, if there's a 1776 now, it's going to be completely different. Everything's set up differently. There's not going to be a 1776 style. However, let's just say there was. To your point, you're asking what happens when the dust settles. Well, what happens when the dust settles? Depending on what people want, they would just go back to the Constitution. Here it is. Let's go back to this. Here it is. It's already written here. Let's go back to it. It's pretty much that simple. We don't have to come up with Articles of Confederation. We don't have to come up with a Continental Congress and develop a new constitution. However, certain states might want to write different laws and do things differently, which they're allowed to do in a specific way under the 10th Amendment. But you still have the Constitution to fall back on. It's basically getting rid of different things rather than figuring everything out. But you have so many different factions of people in this country, so many groups. Even conservatives don't even like the Constitution in some aspects, which is why they're in favor of anti-free speech laws. Some of them are in favor of anti-Second Amendment laws. So even so-called conservatives, you want to talk shit on liberals, that's fine. Conservatives are actually worse because they claim they are patriotic. They claim they're for the Constitution, and they're actually not, which makes them traitors, which makes them, in my opinion, worse than far-left Democrat liberals.
So we have to establish a goal first, right? And that goal would be to go back to the Constitution. That would be the end result. So if we're looking at a 2024, let's play some make-believe here for entertainment purposes only. All right, we're not going the direction that we want. We have a president in the White House right now who's sending money constantly to other countries. He's bought and paid for by the Chinese. And then we have another candidate who's running who just fucking, whatever, he's criminal, whatever it is. I don't care for the Trump supporters who are going to get upset about this. We need to go back to the Constitution, end of story. What would be, let's break down step by step. You have, I don't know what it would be. Let's call it a third party of constitutionalists. And they are people who they see that voting doesn't work. Your government does not listen, and they're at their wits' end, and it's been X amount of time, years, voting cycle, whatever. Nothing is getting done. Is the only option, we'll take this step by step, is breaking off an option first, meaning we're going to get away from the United States in totality, and we've got, I don't know, a state, a land, half of Texas, we'll just say, or some other nice area is available. We're going to go there and we can establish independence, all this shit. Is that an option? Or is the option to say, listen, no, we need to course correct this. We need an agreement, and that agreement needs to be forced through war, if necessary, by our current peoples in office to say, fuck, you're right. We will bow down to serving the Constitution again. What is the course of action? Break away, start over, or scramble the fucking eggs and start to sit there and recorrect what we already have in place?
Well, Matt and I have actually talked about this before, and again, this is for entertainment purposes only here
right.
on Spreely TV, the Rants of Izzo show. But you would have to start at a local level and organize. And that's kind of how our founders did things. So, again, hypothetically, Matt and I have spoken about this in depth, the steps you would need to take to get to a point where we restore the constitutional republic, because we no longer have a constitutional republic here anymore. Nobody follows the Constitution. Nobody. So what you would have to do is get a group of men together, organize, and start at a local level. Go to a local city council meeting, and you would show up armed, as not a threat of violence, but a show of force, saying, listen, here's a list of constitutional deprivations that you enforce here in this county or in this city or in this state, and it's going to end and stop today. And if you don't get rid of these unconstitutional violations, then we're going to come in and forcibly remove you. And then once you get these local areas taken care of where you're restoring constitutional rights, you would keep going until you eventually had an entire state.
Right,
and then
right.
one of the things that happened.
Let's break that down step by step for a second. You walk into your town, it's a town of 35,000 people, and you say this to the mayor. Mayor says, no, we're not doing it, calls the police who are state employees show up. Now you've got a standoff, and whatever happens, right? Let's just say gunfire is exchanged, all this stuff. Now the county's going to come in, then the state, and I don't think federal will come in. You have that. Let's pretend that media got a hold of it, and courts decided that no, man, citizens they were within their right. And at that point, the police were the enemy because they oppressed your freedom, your Fourth Amendment, your First Amendment, everything. So this group of people who did this were 100% in the right lawfully according to the Constitution. No charge will be pressed. Boom. Now that's got coverage. Now let's say 5 more towns decide to do that, and you've got your county. Now your county is all that. You come together, and there's 40,000 of you in this constitutional militia. Where do we go from there? Do we start expanding state by state by state? Because with how social media is in the media, and the media is, you're going to get tons of people out there who think you're all insane, and tons of people out there who think you're doing God's work for the patriotism. How does this grow and grow and grow to where we finally have enough states and militia? Do we then go to the Capitol? Do we then go have a proper lawful insurrection?
Well, here, what Matt said too in the beginning with the original Revolutionary War, he's correct. 60% of the population did not back or approve or support this movement. And you would, like today, probably would have more people that were on that side. You would call them the redcoats. But they would be they would
Loyalists,
or loyalists to the government, or loyalists to what we have today. But one thing about courage and bravery, Dominic, and Matt and I have spoke about this, is it's very contagious. And all it takes is one man to stand up, 2 men to stand up. All of a sudden, you have a militia unit. You have like Matty here. He runs a militia unit here in Pittsburgh, the Iron City Citizens Response Unit. You have 30, 40, 50. All of a sudden, it becomes 100. All of a sudden, that courage and bravery that is contagious, it grows and it keeps growing. And once you get down these steps here that we talked about, you might even have some county sheriffs involved that say, hey, we're with these guys and we're going to support them.
You should have the county sheriffs involved. They should be involved.
That's right. That's right. And we feel like a county sheriff is probably the most important elected position within a state, because how many counties are here in PA? How many counties are in Virginia? Where if each county sheriff starts deputizing people and says, you know what, we are going to restore here. Even the Pennsylvania has a constitution. We're going to restore the Constitution of Pennsylvania first. And as the word spreads and this thing becomes contagious, then you start seeing that American spirit. It's still there, in my opinion. It's still there. That American spirit comes back again. People start going, yeah, you know what? These guys are right. We're going to support them. You have law enforcement now supporting. And then all of a sudden, the powers that be that have been enriching their lives down at Washington, that have been taking foreign donations from all these foreign lobbying groups that have been selling out their constituents year after year for decade after decade, all of a sudden are going to go, oh, shit. It wasn't me. They did it. Sorry, and then you start replacing things. But just like in the Revolutionary War, I'm
being like literal on this, step by step, because I don't think, how can that get to that point? Because unless you have full access to go to Washington, remember, this is entertainment purposes only, feds, if you're listening. Unless like 100 of us can go down and take Chuck Schumer, and you are lawfully allowed to sway him to start running his party the right way, and you do that with every Republican and say, hey, last time we checked, we voted you in. And I don't know how that looks. I don't know if that looks like in Illinois. We have Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, right? And does that mean that those of us from Illinois, from the militia, we have a meeting and there is a show of force that says, okay, listen, you have to vote for the best interest of the state, and then we lay out what the issue is. The illegals coming in, flooding all this shit, whatever it is. And then if it doesn't get done that way, at what point do they get story time only? Remember, this is entertainment purposes. Duct taped to a chair and waterboarded until they agree because they work for us, or we forcibly remove them from office and we replace them with someone else. Because that is the only way, because we've talked about it a million times. Show of force and show of violence is the only way things will change. It can't get to that level, because just by talking about this risks the FBI showing up at my fucking door, or the Secret Service or whatnot. And what are you talking about? We're talking about how the American public could change shit. And then, you're not going to get your police, who are there by the paycheck, 100%. They're bought and paid for. They're going to wind up siding with them. Outside of a standoff between a militia and the state police, county sheriff, and I don't know if our military is able to do it or if they would turn against us. I don't see how any of that can change without force. Our elected officials being reminded, you work for us, do this way, or you'll be removed. I don't see how it's going to be done.
Well, the big part of this, and Matt, who actually ran for county sheriff here in the county of Allegheny, where Pittsburgh, PA is located. He was on a radio show during the 2020 election for county sheriff here in Allegheny County, and he said what he would do. And the county sheriffs here, I think, are very important, because you even saw with the case in Nevada with Bundy Ranch, county sheriffs got involved. And that was a big part of the reason why the feds and the ATF, they all went home, because the county sheriff started backing these local militias. With this local militia that came down from Washington, Oregon, and California, there's over 3,000 guys there. So the feds went home on that one. But what Matt said on this radio show was that he'd go about it the right way, which he would show up at the time it was Governor Wolf. He would show up and say, listen, if the governor comes into my county, I can't just go to the governor's mansion in Harrisburg here, which is the capital PA. But if he comes in my county, I can arrest him for violating people's constitutional rights during COVID. And that's what you should do. You should go down there with county sheriff, whatever the county is there in DC, a law enforcement official that it's on your side, goes in and says, listen, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, these are constitutional rights that you violated with what you voted, the legislation you proposed, and here we're charging you with the deprivation of constitutional rights, which is a felony offense, and you charge them, and you go about it the right way. And that's the steps that you would have to take. A county sheriff would be very important. We have to infiltrate the right way then. So it cannot be out like some people think, which is, all right, we're going to go all 1776 on their ass, show up. You can't insurrect. You have to infiltrate and actually win elections, which we know are rigged. So that's a problem. But I agree with the sheriffs. I ran for sheriff out here as well, too. And it's a fucking losing battle. So infiltration is the key. We have to get inside one of them and then hope that whoever we elect into that position is going to follow through and not get money and power drunk.
Well, to your point, it's like a catch-22. You got to get someone elected, but they won't get elected because they're all rigged. And I told you this on multiple podcasts along with Scotty. You have to have money and media exposure to get elected. Yeah. Otherwise, no one's going to know about you. No one's going to donate to your campaign. You're not going to have any money to get elected. This is why AIPAC is very successful in electing everyone they back, because they fund every politician that there is, basically. And they do so more than any other lobbying group that there is in the United States of America. That being said, voting is off. It's off the table. Voting is completely off the table, maybe locally, but it doesn't matter, because you still have the politicians are not coming to your house to arrest you by force. Okay, Chuck Schumer's not coming to your house to arrest you by force. Okay, the judge isn't coming to your house to arrest you by force. The judge is irrelevant. Doesn't matter what a judge, what a politician or legislator says. I don't care what they say. They can't do anything to you. What they do is they call upon the executive branch of the government, which is supposed to be separate, but it really isn't. And they say, go enforce these crimes, these constitutional deprivations, these violations, these mandates, which are completely illegal and violate the Constitution. Go enforce these. And if no one complies, make sure you charge and arrest them. and they have absolute power and authorization to kill you if you resist. So the problem isn't the politicians, Dominic. The problem isn't the judges. The problem is the people who use violence against you to enforce all these tyrannical constitutional deprivations. Without the existence of armed gangs of men that these politicians use, without those men, they have absolutely no power. So in my opinion, based off of those facts, the armed gangs of men that we call law enforcement that are basically, toadies to these politicians and do what they're told, the ones that receive a paycheck, they have to be, how would I say, persuaded not to enforce them. And you do that by the threat of violence or violence itself. Yeah, they're going to use violence against you to break the law, to enforce constitutional deprivations, violate the law. Why can't we use self-defense against these violent criminals?
We've talked about that several times, and it blows me away the number of people who support the police without any thought, because the police are the key to everything. It is an 800,000 man army on the street that is there for their paycheck, who just does not know the law, don't know the Constitution. It's made it worse by humanizing the badge and letting them fuck up and not holding themselves to a higher standard. And the mob, I watched yesterday 2 different videos, and I put a post up by this, where it was one video of a guy who was getting brought out of a house, and allegedly he had killed his family. And as he's in handcuffs, he gets walked out. One of the cops takes a cheap shot and cracks him right in the face. And I'm like, it's a domestic terrorist. And the amount of people who condemned me for blaming the cop for doing something 100% unlawful was insane. Fast forward, I watched somebody interview a couple of cops at a gay pride parade talking about why there are grown men standing around their genitals out against children. And the cops were, well, it's legal to be nude as long as there's no, like masturbation. And I said, cops
is that indecent exposure there?
It's well, I'll get to that in a second. Because here's the problem is on a daily basis, the amount of people who sat there and said, well, the cops can't, they can't enforce laws that aren't made and for this and that. And I'm like, you weak fucking people who are making excuses for the police are the same ones that are going to be just confused when they're showing up at your door, oppressing you and taking you off to jail for saying something that you said on social media. And to answer your question, yes. What it is called the totality of the circumstances, the elements of the crime, and creative writing. Any cop who is any damn good whatsoever can stop you for nothing. And by the time they make contact with you at the window, they will have probable cause why they stopped you. And it's how do you prove that they saw it at the time or they saw it when they walked up to the car? Because a cop is not required on body camera or inside the squad to say, I'm activating my overhead lights because I saw this vehicle swerve without doing a lane change or a traffic signal and lane change. So it blows me away that we have an army, a brain-dead army that is supported by angry, bloodthirsty conservatives. And this is the glue that keeps it together. Everybody talks about the psyop that's going on and how you keep people in slavery without any change in cages. You have district attorneys that don't prosecute. States and district attorneys don't prosecute these felons. They let the recidivism rate go like crazy, and you get like you get a legal migrant comes over here, rapes and kills a 12-year-old, rapes her for 3 hours, then fucking kills her, and nothing happens to this guy. And and you do that over and over and over and over again with certain types of cultures and communities. You rally your base of conservatives, because now you got to weaponize the conservatives. You weaponize the conservatives to then say, we want our police to be judge, jury, and executioner and do things like beat the shit out of handcuffed subjects for murdering their family without any due process. That gets you bloodthirsty conservatives who won't do fucking shit except for harumph online. They support and empower the police. And then when liberals are ready, they're going to let those police go and turn them on the citizens the same way we saw in the pandemic and the lockdowns. So the mob, the constitutional republic that we aren't anymore, and the mob rules, we are the ones that I don't think on any level can ever collectively come together and listen to a Matty Wack or a Scott Sieverts and say, oh, you mean this step-by-step lawful legal process according to the Constitution is how we get our public back? I don't think that they're emotionally intelligent enough to listen And that's why I think that people want fucking bombs dropped here, insurrections there, and then when the dust settles, go, oh, I'm going to follow my favorite influencer. We should vote for him for White House because he's a smart, educated man who does stuff online. That's why we're fucked, because the public is stupid.
Could he be any worse than what we have now? Could they be any worse than what we have now?
No, the whole fucking shit is screwed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at that point, it's just like, do nothing, or, you know what I mean? Again, I agree with you. People, it's not that people, I can't remember what you said, but it has to do with cowardice. They're not willing to 1776.
Correct.
Nobody is willing to use violence anymore like they did back in 1776, 1812. Again, they have subcontracted their violence out to the police and the military. The military has not fought for American freedom, constitutional rights on our own soil since arguably the Civil War. They have not fought for constitutional rights since then. So that's 160 years, whatever it is. So I don't even know. But my point is they haven't fought on our soil. So even the military, who have taken that oath to protect and defend the Constitution, have not. Everybody, the ones who are trained to use violence have been subcontracted out by their citizens' own will and authority to use violence on what the state wants to deem a criminal.
Yes.
To whatever the state wants to deem a terrorist. The founding fathers were considered terrorists.
That's right.
So that being said, it's all about cowardice, laziness, and sloth. Again, you had back during the 1776 period, 16 years old and older were all part of what was called the militia. They were well-trained, well-organized, well-equipped, well-armed, well-regulated, right? In working order. They were able to use their firearm. They were able to use everything they had. They were trained to do that. There's people today that I know that have $100,000 in firearms and other equipment, but couldn't shoot worth fuck and would probably have a heart attack after they traveled 50 yards while trying to run the cover. So it's to your point, no one is even ready for this.
Yeah.
They want to sub it out to the police, so they're not doing it. They're the ones violating your rights. We're back to 1776, and people support the fucking redcoats.
Yeah.
It's called back to blue. Now, it was back to red back then. Now it's back to blue today.
Right.
So it has to do with cowardice, laziness, lack of education. And, they want to fucking jerk off to internet porn. They want to play video games. They want to watch sports ball. That's what they want to do. These people are debt slaves. They don't care as long as they got a new car that they don't own, the bank owns. As long as they have a nice house that they don't own, the bank owns. And if you do own the house, you can still have to pay taxes on the house, which means they can take it if you don't keep up with the taxes. So it's just a fucking joke. Yeah, and I don't know how to explain this to people. These are fucking facts, yet people fucking call me crazy for pointing these out. Because they feel like they are they're being criticized by me, and I'm demeaning them. Well, guess what? I am. But isn't that what our military is based off of? Doesn't that what drill sergeants do to try and get the men hardened?
No, you don't do that.
I am a big fan of negative reinforcement, but today's culture, a bunch of fucking faggots. So maybe the fucking transgender trainee militia back in 1776 you were talking about has more balls than today's average American man. But I will say this. Go ahead.
No, I've been saying that negative reinforcement is huge. People have been asking me why I've been doing so many quote negative views or shit reviews on cops and shit lately. It's because I've said this whole humanizing the bad shit made it, oh, poor baby, we know you've had a rough day, so you pulling over that guy, towing his car, and then taking him to jail where he lost his job, and then his wife left him and his kids were taken off. It's not your fault. You just had a bad fucking day. No, I think negative reinforcement should be you're a fucking cunt if you do not know exactly what your job is as a cop and upholding that, and you're not a fucking I 100% believe that we should be pressure testing that way. But when all of that is said, you could, 200 plus years ago, you got an ocean that separates us and there's no infiltration outside of letters or whatever was sent this way. Can you just say, listen, we have to correct the problem when the problem surrounds us? We're in the middle of the problem with nowhere to go because all the fucking land is bought up. You can't have a bunch of people who sit there and go, hey, we're going to go over to Africa and actually turn it into a metropolitan area. And we can't do that. And yes, I'm sure people are going to think that was fucking racist. You missed the last couple of shows that were on. We're stuck here with this shit. So is there any way to put this toothpaste back in the tube, or do we just got to say, fuck it, we're done?
No, you never give up. You never throw in the towel. You never give up. But to Matt's point here, when he starts calling out things like people consuming pornography or people consuming sports and entertainment in a way that's obsessive, that convicts people when he says it. So if you say something and somebody in your conscience, you're guilty of that, you go, fuck this guy. I don't like him saying that because it convicts me. But here's the other thing that we get all the time in our comment sections on YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff. You guys are traitors. You guys are talking about this. It's treasonous. Well, then that would make the 56 men that signed the Declaration of Independence treasonous. So here they sign this in Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and they do it and with very little approval, again, from the population. And they sign this and they say, hey, we're going to be free. And in the Declaration of Independence, since tomorrow is Independence Day, it calls for exactly what we're talking about. If a government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right and the duty of the people to abolish it and start over. Our founders had the foresight to know, hey, this could go off the rails, because there's a lot of things that the Constitution is not perfect. In fact, what makes us great and what makes us strong is actually what makes us weak too. The First Amendment, being able to say whatever you want, being tolerant. We let all these foreign entities come over here and stay here because of our tolerance and our love and our acceptance. And it ends up becoming detrimental to us, actually. The Islam and Sharia law doesn't jive with the Constitution. They are not simpatico. It doesn't work that way. Same with Judaism. You can't have a group of people that think everybody else is cattle living amongst us and thinking we all have the same rights. So there's things here that aren't in sync together. So just like Christianity, the thing that makes Christianity great is love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek, tolerance, acceptance, mercy, grace, forgiveness. Well, and you see, it's the only religion today that's a complete soft target. When you look at, say, a gun-free zone, that's called a soft target, because people can go there and they know there's no threat or pushback. Well, that's what Christianity has become today, and also that's what America has become today. It's a soft target. We can go in there, we can say whatever we want, we can burn the American flag, we can shit on Jesus Christ, we can say all this stuff. Christians aren't going to do shit. Go ahead, Netflix. You just put out a series about gay Jesus. Go ahead, Netflix, and put a series out about gay Muhammad. See how that goes. Let's see how that turns out. That's the reason why you don't draw a cartoon of Muhammad in France, because someone will cut your head off. And here, America today has become a soft target. You can come here, you can say whatever you want, you can take advantage of our laws, you can take advantage of the system, you can collect all these different entitlement programs. The immigrants that are coming over illegally, by the way, are getting debit cards with $10,000 on it, and it's insanity.
And these Islamists, the Muslims, they are very dedicated to their religion. They're so dedicated that, you know this, they name their kids Muhammad. A lot of Muslims name their kids Muhammad.
It's the most popular name in England.
Christians don't do that. Christians aren't naming their kids Jesus. Buddhists aren't naming their kids Buddha. Jews aren't naming their kids Satan. But my point here is that they are very dedicated to their religion. And this is what makes them stronger in that aspect. Go ahead, Dominic. I yield back to you.
Oh, shit. I'm trying to remain impartial, but it is what it is. Do we have anybody in Congress that is an ally to any of these beliefs, or is just the whole thing, our entire government, not worth it? Do we have anybody who says, listen...
Thomas Massey.
Okay.
Thomas Massey.
Yeah, Thomas Massey.
But
we'll tell you a story real quick.
Yeah,
here,
his wife got killed.
Thomas Massey is a congressman from the state of Kentucky. Recently, there was a bill introduced to Congress a few months ago. It was called H.R. Bill 6020. It was the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. Well, he thought it violated free speech. He agreed with part of it, which is you can't threaten violence against a group of people. Of course, nobody disagrees with that, but there were things there that in the bill that are very vague, and it violated some free speech. Well, he's a Republican that voted against it. And here, AIPAC, this group actually tweets out, hey, Thomas Massey voted against it. We're going to fund your primary opposition this coming primary. Well, Thomas Massey ended up winning his primary by a lot, actually. And AIPAC, who has like almost 100% success rate when it comes to backing funding politicians, they lost this one. And here, his wife recently passed away. I don't know if you saw it, Rhonda Massey. She recently died. And the events surrounding the death are very unclear. They're very vague. In fact, there hasn't even been a cause of death that's been released. But this Israeli gentleman tweets out something that was it was almost mob-like in the way that they said, maybe you should rethink the way you vote from now on. Oh. And it was like, oh, that doesn't sound good. So Thomas Massey, to answer your question, Thomas Massey, we believe, is one of the good guys. Now, his voting record isn't perfect, but he's the best that I think that is in Congress today.
One person. We're just so fucked. It's stupid. Yeah, Independence Day tomorrow. I'm going to be listening to how much this country fucking sucks because we don't celebrate grown men with their fucking cocks out in front of children and how that should be. Well, we have just freedom to show your just love for other human beings. I just don't get it. I don't get it, dude. I love this country, and I love the concept of it's a self-governing concept. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I don't know where that got so just blown out of the water with we have to have not just free expression, but blown out of proportion, flamboyant free expression. And then the oppression of somebody else's opinions and all this shit. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I think January 6th was a fucking joke because it showed how half-assed Americans aren't willing to do something that they believe in, because you have to think about it. How many people literally believed that the election was rigged and they went to the Capitol and didn't really do anything? They stood by and showed their solidarity. It just shows that like every path that this country is about to take, I think it's just going to be the water's boiling, but people are used to the fucking temperature by now. I think it's where it's at. And I don't think any damn thing's going to get done. And I think, hopefully, I'm hoping for a very swift heart attack in my sleep, maybe in 10 more years. So I don't have to deal with the fucking fallout of what's going to happen, this 2030 agenda bullshit. That's just me. That's just fucking me.
If you up your trend balloon, it'll happen.
I'm not on it yet. I should, though. It's Deca this cycle.
Recently, Tucker Carlson had on Patrick Bet-David, and Patrick Bet-David actually spoke about this. It was very interesting for him to bring this up. He said, where are those guys? Where are the Robert Morris and the Benjamin Rush and the guys that are meeting together, citizens that are just meeting, not a city council, not politicians? Where are the citizens that are meeting once or twice a month to say, hey, this is what we see going on locally, and this is what we have to change, and we need to, maybe organize in big numbers and go down to the city councils and go to these things and say, hey, this, and this, like we said earlier, these are the list. This is a list of constitutional deprivations. And our founders actually in the Declaration of Independence called for us to make sure this thing doesn't go off the rails. That's why they said if a government becomes, destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to abolish it and start over. And we need to have men in counties and in cities and in boroughs and in townships having these meetings and having these discussions that still have that American spirit. So tomorrow on Independence Day, I will be thinking, me and Maddie will be firing some firearms downrange. And we'll be thinking about the founders of the country that sacrificed everything to make sure that we have something like this that is unique and has never been, and there's never been anything like it before.
Yeah, sacrifice everything to have some blue shirt show up on midnight shift because you're blowing off fireworks in the neighborhood, and you shouldn't be doing that because it's illegal. If you're a cop doing that tomorrow, you're a fucking piece of shit.
1812, by the way, Matt, I think 1812, Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner.
That's correct. He was on the British ship. He went over there to try and negotiate, I think, a trade for prisoners. And then he witnessed the battle of, Fort McHenry.
That's right.
Yeah. That was actually
the Francis Scott Key Bridge, by the way. Yeah. That was the big bridge that went down in Baltimore.
Oh, that's
recently.
symbolic.
Yeah.
A little symbolic. Yeah, we all forgot about that thing, right? Because that was, it happened.
That went away pretty quick. The black box didn't operate, apparently. All those different things.
What are you saying? Because it's black, it doesn't work? Fucking racist. Why don't you just put a Burger King hat on?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Oh man. This has been fun, huh? This has been enjoyable.
Yeah, we got a couple
this is-
minutes left. What do you guys have going on for
Okay.
the Burn Pit podcast? Who'd you guys have this last week? The last Monday.
Well, Maddie and I, it was just the two of us. The gentleman we talked about last week, his name's Dr. Alan Zabrowski. He was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. He served in Vietnam. He was a professor at Johns Hopkins. He was a professor at the Army Warfare College, West Point. A very just sharp, bright guy for a man in his 80s, unlike the guy that we saw in the debate last week who couldn't put two sentences together. But Dr. Alan Zabrowski was supposed to be in studio with us on Monday. He said, hey, can we push it back to this coming Monday, July 8th? So he'll be joining us today, and he's going to put out some part of his expertise is in 9/11 and some of the different events that occurred around 9/11. So we'll be talking about 9/11 this coming Monday, and that's on Spreely TV. You can find Spreely TV on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick. Download the Freedom Hub app right to your phone or smart device, and you can watch us anytime, anywhere. Matt and I, the Burn Pit Podcast, we're on Mondays at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time, 1 in the Pacific, and join us too every Wednesday here on the Rants of Izzo Show, 1 o'clock in the Pacific. Go to rantsofizzo.com or Spreely.
I saw a passing meme that suggested, I didn't get a chance to look this up yet, that it was Bush's cousin who was in charge of the Trade Center security during that time, during the Twin Tower attacks.
The owner of the buildings there, he took out a insurance policy. Right. His name was Larry Silverstein.
Silverstein.
Yeah, he took $1 billion something out like 10 days before the.
Yeah, but he wasn't even there that day because he had a dentist appointment.
That's right.
Did you ever ask him how that dentist appointment was? Because a reporter did.
Oh yeah.
Guess how he said a dentist appointment went.
What did he say?
He didn't even make it.
Oh, that's a shame. That's weird. It's interesting.
Must have not had dentist appointment.
And then, by the way, people don't talk about this too. There was a third tower that fell that day, Tower 7.
Yeah, but which was on the. That was a controlled demolition. Anybody looks at that, I don't care who says what. That thing was not. That didn't fall. That was blown the fuck
Dominic,
up.
you're such a conspiracy theorist. That's ridiculous. Yeah. It fell because of all the smoke and debris. Mm-hmm. The steel structure fell because of smoke and debris. That's why it fell. How dare you even question it? By the way, and how dare us for even noticing that a third building fell that day? Shame on us.
Well, all you have to do to sway somebody's mind is you start to play the whole humanizing shit. Always you're being so mean and so disingenuous and you start to spin on the humanity instead of the reality of what happened that fucking day. And that's how you get people to continue to believe that bullshit lie. It was
and guys that actually come out and speak the truth, or guys that acknowledge this stuff, they call you conspiracy theorists, they call you extremists, they demonize you, they call you a bunch of bad names to get you to shut up. It's a tactic that's used in cultural Marxism. You demonize your opponent.
It's a Saul Alinsky tactic.
You call them names over and over again. So
it was his ethnicity, by the way.
Okay, Saul Alinsky?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're missing the bell today, but yeah, they just demonize you, they call you names, and they scare you into being a mute.
The inappropriate bell. We have the inappropriate bell. We have it. Yeah, that's been collecting dust. I haven't used that in about a year or so. Shit. You guys got any? Okay, you guys doing? I don't fucking know. You guys are going to blow off firearms tomorrow. We heard the drag queens. You guys got a show coming on Monday. That's it. I tomorrow is going to be a big day of America was never great, and I'm descended from slaves, and the slaves didn't get to enjoy fucking. Independence. Suck my freedom boner tomorrow. I will gladly pull it out. Since it's okay to have your genitalia out for whatever.
Yeah.
I'll have mine out. And anybody who wants to take a big ol' fucking just luscious lick off of my fucking sweaty sack, please feel free to. It's Independence Day tomorrow, and you have the God-given right to express your freedom and your joy for this country by spreading my cheeks and tasting what I had for fucking lunch. That's all I got.
God bless those trannies, too, that help us win the war. Okay. That was inspirational.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's it. I need a fucking vacation. All right, kids, that was the Rants of Izzo show today. Hopefully you learned something. I always do on Wednesdays. It's fucking awesome. No show the rest of the week. Guys, enjoy Independence Day tomorrow. Keep your fingers. Remember, have a responsible adult blow off the fucking fireworks. And to be honest, I think that there's no greater sound than the moaning, wailing, screaming, outrageous cries of a mother watching her child do something stupid that she fucking allowed. So tomorrow, if little Johnny, you didn't want to discipline him and say, no, Johnny, you cannot go by that wick as it's burning, and Johnny loses a couple fingers or an eye, fucking A, you deserve it. End of story. Be a fucking parent. All right. Burn Pit Podcast, Mondays at 4 p.m. Central or Eastern? Eastern, yeah. Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern here on Spreely.com. Do not forget to check out past episodes. Go to Burn Pit Podcast on Instagram. Check out Scotty and Maddie over on Instagram as well, too. Support all the things they do. Listen to the content. They actually have a far more intelligent show than I have, so that's why I have them on to pad my numbers. Guys, have a great damn rest of your week. We'll see you Monday. Go out and do something nice to somebody, and if you can't do something nice for them, just don't fucking be a jag off to them, you stupid, unpatriotic cunt. Bye.